What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my final game preview and prediction for week 3 of the 2024 college football season, at least for this week. I wanted to get more done, but I didn't have time, but I had to preview this one because this game is really fascinating to me. It's from Columbia. No, not Missouri. We already covered that game. This one from Columbia, South Carolina. Do we have an upset brewing here? The South Carolina Gamecocks are going to be taking on the LSU Tigers that Garrett Nussmeier and company are going to look to bounce back, while South Carolina is going to be looked to get put on people's national radars. And we'll tell you everything you need to know about the Tigers and Gamecocks coming up here in just a little bit. But before you do that, you guys know I have to thank you for all the love and support this channel has seen as of late. And if you want to continue to help support this channel, please do anything you can to interact with it, because it all helps support what I do here on YouTube. If you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, you better hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. I talk a lot of college football, and we'll be talking about the Pac-12 later on today as well, and all the teams they've added and where I think they go next. That's sort of my other video that you're going to get out today. And hey, just thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video and any of my other videos. Continue to do so, and also like, comment, share. It all helps to support this channel. But if you want to support me outside of YouTube, you want to look at some other podcasts, some other field work, this, that, and the other things that I do within the sports media world, and follow along with my journey to be a sports media professional, well, you can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you'd like to call it, at TailgateNate29. Would really appreciate a follow and support over there. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, after all that, it's time to talk about the Tigers and the Gamecocks from Columbia. This should be a really fun one. How do we do preview predictions here on my channel? Well, I am glad you asked. We're going to go through some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So first we'll look at what happens when the LSU offense is on the field against this Gamecock defense, and then we'll flip it. We'll go ahead and take a look at the South Carolina offense versus this Tiger defense. And at the end of the video, guys, I'll kind of tell you what I think is going to happen, my expectations for this game, as well as give you a final prediction for who I think is going to come out on top. Make sense? Good. Let's dive on into the Tigers and Gamecocks by starting out by talking about keys to the game when LSU has the football offensively. Now, this is an LSU team as a whole that you could look at and you could say, well, they haven't been very inspiring so far. Of course, they already have a loss on the schedule to the USC Trojans, a Trojan team that looks much more improved, especially defensively, than it was last season. And looks to be right there in the mix for a college football playoff spot. LSU very much still there as well. But the concerns for this season coming into the year were LSU's defense. And those concerns probably still are arising right now. They weren't able to contain Miller Moss when they needed to. And they struggled with the Nichols team last week. And Nichols was able to put up 21 points on LSU last week. They were able to slow them down there in that second half. But even though you could say that LSU has had these uninspiring performances and they just haven't looked like what we thought LSU was going to look like so far this season, well, there's one guy, especially offensively, that has just been absolutely fantastic, guys. That is Garrett Nussmeier. 610 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Yes, the 1 interception you'd like to have back. It is the lone turnover for LSU this year. But, I mean, he has been simply sensational, and the offensive line has been doing a really good job. No sacks allowed so far this season, and Garrett Nussmeier is driving this offense. However, the thing that is going to be a big key in this game, and you're going to hear me touch on it all video long, is the battle within the trenches. So, this LSU offensive front is going to have to win the battle of the trenches in 2 different ways. A, you got to be able to get this run game going early. Now, the way that it's trending, I don't believe that LSU is going to have John Emery Jr. available to play in this game. I know he's battling an injury, and it doesn't look likely he's going to play. So I'm going to pretend as if LSU does not have John Emery this season. He may have already been ruled out now. Again, the only thing I know as of recording this video is that he's pretty unlikely to play. So guys like Williams and Jackson are going to have to step up into that role to get this run game going. You have to do that for a couple of reasons. One, you have to take the load off of Garrett Nussmeier. For as good as he and this group of wide receivers has been so far this year, especially Kyron Lacey, already 4 receiving touchdowns on the year, you knew he was going to step into that big-time role once they lost Thomas and Neighbors from last season. Kyron Lacey's been fantastic. Mason Taylor at the tight end position has been fantastic. You got 4 wide receivers plus Mason Taylor in there at tight end that can catch the football and that are going to be reliable options for you. But this run game has to get working because you do want to establish that battle in the trenches. You do want to say, hey, we're physical too. We're going to come back and boom, punch you right in the mouth. This LSU offensive line is going to have to do that, and being able to get some creativity flowing, get this run game going, it'll take the weight off of Nussmeier's shoulders, and it'll give LSU a better shot here to win this game. But The tougher task, in my opinion, for LSU's offensive line to handle is this South Carolina pass rush, because my goodness, you take a look at a lot of these pass rushers for this South Carolina defense. I mean, oh my goodness, have they just been something special to watch so far this season. You have guys like Jules and Stewart and Kennard that have just been absolutely sensational. I'm looking more at guys like David Stewart and the likes of Kyle Kennard. Of course, Kyle Kennard, a transfer coming into this program. Guys, he's already got 3.5 sacks. David Stewart is a true freshman this year that has 2.5 sacks. He was the guy you saw on that thumbnail screen just a little bit ago. And this is the pass rush for South Carolina that has just been simply sensational. 10 sacks on the season. That's an average, for those of you that are numbers nerds out there like I am, that's an average of 5 sacks per game. That is ridiculous. Well, they're going to go up against an LSU offensive line that, as mentioned earlier, hasn't allowed a sack so far this season. That has to continue. LSU has got a pair of all SEC tacklers that are going to have to defend the likes of Stewart and Kennard and a lot of these other edge rushers that, look, may not have produced a sack yet, but they definitely have potential to, and they're going to. But again, watching guys like Kennard, Stewart, even Edmond when he is coming off the edge, couple of these linebackers as well, it's going to be really tough for this LSU offensive line to handle. And I think South Carolina is going to be able to break through at some point, but I do believe that LSU's offensive front, for the most part, is going to hold up pretty well. But the turnover battle is also going to be key to watch here on this side of the ball. South Carolina's been turning the football over for as well as they've done in slowing down opposing offenses. You see they're under 250 yards per game allowed. South Carolina overall has not been too impressive on the other side of the ball, which I actually am getting ahead of myself a little bit, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the defense has been very impressive for South Carolina. They were able to hold Kentucky to, I believe, right around near only 100 yards of offense. They limited the quarterback play to go only 6 of 17 for like 44 yards, something crazy like that. 6 turnovers forced on the year, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. If South Carolina is going to force turnovers and get the ball in the hands of Lenora Sellers, we know the offense for South Carolina has struggled this year, as seen by these numbers here, but we do know that this South Carolina offense, given enough opportunities, is going to come through and score some points for you, especially against an LSU defense that still has seen their struggles this season. They're allowing 6.2 yards per play. The pass rush still isn't there. They're not forcing enough turnovers, and the pass defense, much like last season, is absolutely miserable. Now, Lenora Sellers, at least throughout this point in the season, hasn't really showcased his ability with the arm to be super flashy quite yet. Now, that could change here in this game, but the bigger key for LSU, and what did I talk about? Battle in the trenches, right? This LSU defensive front is going to have to get home for a couple of reasons. One, and my first biggest key here, you got to be able to limit Lenora Sellers in his ability to run the football. 30 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown so far. No, he hasn't ripped off a super dynamic run. Does have a couple like 15 to 20, I think, yes, as long as a 23-yard run so far this season. He's very dynamic in the pocket, and even though he hasn't necessarily shown to be super dynamic across the board quite yet, we know the potential is there for the freshman Sellers. We know how good of a player he can be, and we have seen the flashes of it so far throughout this season. But especially offensively, South Carolina's offense was just unimpressive against Old Dominion. They squeaked away to a 4-point win, and the defense dominated that game against Kentucky and gave this offense a lot of chances to be able to have some short fields. This is a South Carolina offense that, for as good as Garrett Nussmeier and LSU have been, are going to have to find some rhythm, are going to have to find some explosiveness, and they need to generate some points. But if this one turns into a shootout and South Carolina's defense can't get going, I don't know how much I trust South Carolina's offense to be able to go toe-for-toe with LSU, because even though this LSU defense, sure, has a lot of kinks to iron out, I don't think from what we've seen right now that Lenora Sellers is going to be able to beat LSU time after time after time over the top through the air. They're going to be able to beat him on the ground with guys like Sanders that has had over 142 yards. Again, Lenora Sellers' ability there in the pocket. And obviously, again, Rocket Sanders is going to be a huge, huge key part to what South Carolina is going to want to do running the football here. But like I talked about, right, the battle at the line of scrimmage is going to be the big thing here. But even bigger thing than that, when you take a look at just the broad spectrum of LSU's defense versus South Carolina's offense, and I've kind of touched on it a little bit here, both of these sides of the ball have to step up. We know LSU's offense is good. Yes, you'd like to see more out of that run game, and we know South Carolina's defense is good. Both of those things have been shown so far this season. This side of the ball, when South Carolina possesses it, well, there's a lot to be desired from South Carolina's offense, and there's a lot to be desired from LSU's defense. So whichever one of these sides here, when South Carolina possesses the football offensively, is going to step up, is going to create the bigger plays, I think it's going to put their team in much better shot to win. But like I've talked about all video long, this game is going to be won in the trenches. Yes, in the trenches. And it's pretty obvious to see why on the other side here, right? LSU has not allowed a sack so far this season. South Carolina leads the nation, I do believe, with 10 sacks already on the season. If they don't lead the nation, they're pretty darn close to it. They are one of the national leaders in team sacks so far this year. And overall, just when you take a look at South Carolina's defense, they've been very impressive. So is LSU's offense. Or no, sorry, I'm backtracking here. I mean, when you take a look at South Carolina's defensive front, they've been impeccable. So is LSU's offensive front. Yes, you want to see them get more push in that run game, but it's an offense that relies on the pass with Garrett Nussmeier. When you're talking about this side of the ball, though, when South Carolina is on offense, they've allowed 8 sacks so far this season, and a lot of that due to, in part, that Lenora Sellers gets outside of the pocket and then gets hit, right? That has to be something that changes here. And, well, the LSU pass rush, take advantage of that, man. Get this pass rush going. Blitz Harold Perkins, please. He's one of the best defensive players in the entire country. Utilize him on that blitz. Utilize these edge rushers that you have. Utilize some of these other linebackers you have, guys like Penn and Weeks. Maybe even get a guy like Major Burns on a safety blitz. Mix up the coverage. Send some blitzes, because if that happens, well, you're going to be able to get through this offensive front. You're going to be able to not only provide pressure to Lenora Sellers, you're going to be able to slow down this run game. And if you win the battle at the line of scrimmage here for the LSU Tigers, I mean, it's only going to bode really, really well for you, again, as this is South Carolina offensive line that has struggled. So obviously, guys, as we take a look here at the prediction, you can find this one on ABC and ESPN+. It's a Saturday game in the noon time slot, Eastern Standard Time. Convert it however you may. This is going to be a very fascinating contest, and I do believe that LSU has what it takes to win this game. I trust their defense to improve enough to defend this South Carolina offense and to be able to slow down whatever Lenora Sellers is going to be able to throw at it. What I also believe is that when you take a look at the side of the ball that I think is going to win this game, if South Carolina is going to win this game, that pass rush has to be fantastic, and the LSU offensive front is going to have to be dismantled. If LSU is going to win this game, yeah, you probably are going to have to get that run game going a little bit more so than you have in the previous couple of games. But more importantly, Garrett Nussmeier has got to be as good as he's been. And I think that's the difference here in this game. I think Garrett Nussmeier and the LSU offense make one too many plays. I just don't trust this South Carolina offense right now. I know their defense is going to make some stops, and they're going to get back home to Garrett Nussmeier at least a couple times here. But I got LSU surviving the upset. I think they're going to pull this one out. I got 27-23. I do think South Carolina's defense is going to score some points. They're going to generate some big plays on this LSU defense that is still going to be trying to find their sort of rhythm. But Garrett Nussmeier and the LSU offense make too many plays, and the Tigers will survive an upset in Columbia, South Carolina. Let me know what you guys think about this game down in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. And until next time, well, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.